US going toward crypto, a quiet day in the markets could lead to some very big gains and some opportunities on ZAR. So much more you need to know in the market. Welcome to Pounds for Breakfast. Good morning and welcome on this beautiful Wednesday, the 7th of June, guys. Thank you so much for all the wishes. I'm feeling a little bit better from yesterday. However, still a little bit of more recovery on the way to come. However, there are some massive opportunities in the market. I can't wait to dive into it. So first and foremost, this is a story that is developing. However, there is going to be massive implications for the market, specifically on crypto. So if you haven't heard, guys, the SEC is going to war with pretty much all of the major crypto institutions in the US, right? The latest one being the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, has filed for a motion to essentially seize Binance's US assets, right? This is major. This is probably the biggest news since we've had the whole FTX saga, right? So for those of you who remember, or for those of you who don't remember, essentially what happened with FTX was it broke towards the end of 2022 that Alameda Research, which was also owned by Sang Bankman-Fried SBM, essentially they owned a stake in FTX based on their own coins that they generated. They owned a stake of probably around about $5 billion, right? This sparked a bunch of controversy. Is Alameda Research holding the assets for FTX, so on and so forth. Long story short, everybody pretty much should know the history right now. It was basically revealed that FTX was utilizing customer funds as they wished to invest, diversify, buy other coins, essentially bloating the value of their own coins, as well as using customer funds as and how they wish. As well as using customer funds as and how they wish, right? Buying houses all over the world, so on and so forth. Now, I'm not saying it's the exact same thing with Binance, but you can definitely see the SEC is in an all-out war against crypto across the board, right? Over and above. And so the SEC is pretty much doing the same thing against Coinbase, right? Suing them and saying that, their platform was buying and selling securities that they weren't registered with the SEC, right? So we have these two simultaneous cases that are busy happening, all revolving around the crypto world. Now, this is going to have a massive impact, and luckily we have the FTX saga that's happened in recent history for us to compare and look for opportunities. Now, this is again one of the biggest things about being a trader, right? When you are simply investing into crypto, housing, whatever it may end up being, you're an investor, right? You're sitting long-term hoping something evaluates higher or appreciates in value. When we look at trading and speculating on markets, we're able to take positions based on something about to grow or based on something about to essentially depreciate in value. So in situations like this, the South African Rand, we're going to talk about that in a second, we have an opportunity to benefit in something's downside move or depreciation in value. So there is some opportunities that we'll be speaking about in a second. However, before we get to the markets, before we get to the charts, it points out that we have a fairly quiet day in the markets from a fundamental data perspective, right? We don't have all too much happening, fairly quiet across the board. We've got some business confidence coming in on the South African Rand a little bit later. And that's going to probably happen before you guys even see this video. But ultimately, we've got some business confidence at lunchtime. And then the bigger item, I think, potentially that has ability to move FX is going to be an interest rate decision on the Canadian dollar. And way later this evening, we have some crude oil inventories at 4:30. Now, again, if you'd like to be part of Dollars for Lunch and trade with me live in the market this afternoon, as well as receive market opportunities live, signals and opportunities as and when they happen, this is the last day to get into Premium Plus for free. After today, there is a fee. There will be a discounted fee if you have an account with one of our partner brokers, right? But today is the last day. So in the Telegram group, open up that link, get your account funded, send us proof that it's open, funded, and get yourself access for June for free. Now, we'll be sending a couple of these articles through into the DVDM Markets discussion group. You guys can go ahead, read up, have a look. They'll also be linked down below in the description. If you haven't done so already, smash that like button and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. So when we do go live for some of these free events, you can be part and parcel of that. Now, the last item I just quickly want to touch on is the S&P 500 heat map, right? It's a little bit of a mixed bag, and we're going to go over this on the markets and having a look specifically at what had taken place over the last little bit. But in essence, we got a bit of a mixed bag across the board. Tesla looking for some good gains there, 1.7% increase. As I mentioned, very little fundamental data points for today. So we have some clean sailing in the markets, right? We're going to start off right now having a look at Bitcoin, where Bitcoin is. Now, again, this can apply to other cryptos, but we're mostly having a look at Bitcoin for the reason being that we're going to see a ton of inflow, outflow of Bitcoin, and specifically Coinbase and Binance are going to have a huge net effect on Bitcoin. You can look at Ethereum as well. There's going to be a fairly big amount of flow and change there. We can pretty much see as well, we saw quite a big outflow on Binance alone, right? Just in terms of Ethereum, right? Ethereum in a dollar value, we looked at yesterday, or from the time that it was noted that the SEC would be, taking Binance on, $1.6 billion flowed out, right? That a net outflow in the 24 hours following the SEC investigation or notification, or at least the news hit, of around about $800 million net outflow. Okay, so Ethereum definitely going to take a little bit of a hit here, but we're going to be focusing on Bitcoin because it's the most widely accessible. Now, what I'm looking at the moment is I'm looking at a one-day time frame. I'm looking specifically at this last bull push that we've seen here, and that comes in at November, right? From the time the FTX saga happened, if you guys will remember, FTX saga developed over 10 days in November 2022, which is pretty much where the collapse happened. And that is pretty much the result of the FTX saga. And I also want to just point out that FTX saga alone wasn't substantial enough to crash the price of crypto as big as it was. Even though there was billions of dollars at risk here, I just want to point out that was not big enough to crash crypto or really affect crypto in any massive way, other than the underlying faith that it's being used, controlled, and essentially managed in the correct manner. It more hurt the markets from a faith perspective than really in terms of the price. So I just want to state that as a side note. However, we have not seen the SEC, or at least US entities, come after crypto in such, it almost looks like, in such a sort of planned and focused attack, having a look at all these different items, right? Previously, crypto wasn't registered as a security, right? Or as a commodity, or, it was a digital asset. The SEC is now claiming that certain cryptocurrencies are now exchange assets, right? And commodities in a certain way. So there's gonna be a whole ton of new laws, a whole ton of new regulations that will apply. And the big question is, can Coinbase, can Binance survive with new SEC regulations within the US? Can they diversify? Can they go, international to other countries? Can they still survive that storm? That's a big question. That's a completely separate discussion. However, I do believe this is going to have a net negative effect, because if you have a look at Binance, if you have a look at Coinbase, these are some of the biggest platforms in the world that create accessibility to crypto as a whole. So I'm looking at the pure price action of Bitcoin. I'm looking at the most recent structure, and I'm looking at, with a little bit of an exception, having a look at this sort of middle of March pull down, and I'm incorporating that. Even with having a look at that, I can still see that Bitcoin is in a vulnerable position for some sort of pullback towards the downside. So I'm looking at short opportunities here on Bitcoin. I'm placing the short opportunity, and essentially what I'm doing here is I'm looking at my risk management side of things. We're looking at that major support, now resistance, at that 29,000 on average, $30,000 to a coin, right? We've got a massive resistance level north above us on that $30,000 to a coin. So I'm looking at some short opportunities right now with some stop losses between that zone, right? If you want to be absolutely, you want to take the maximum protective barrier, right? The highest potential zone that Bitcoin should not get through as a stop loss, then you want to look at around about that 32,000, 33,000 to be absolutely safe. If you want to get, lean and mean, your first direct level of resistance is going to be coming in at that $29,000 dead flat. So I've already got some short opportunities right here on these two levels, and I'll start to add in opportunities as price starts to break. Even more so should we break this little channel that we see over here, right? So I'm currently looking at a 1 day time frame, 4 hours, zooming a little bit closer gives us a little bit more detail, but I would start to layer in and add in some of those orders below that $25,000 to coin. Now, I have spoken about this in the past, that I believe the true value proposition, and there was an article that spoke about the true value of what does it cost to manufacture or produce one Bitcoin, right? Looking at the energy, the consumption, everything in play that it takes to essentially mine one coin. And that number came out to around about $13,000 at that time. So that is where I believe the true value of one Bitcoin sits. And I believe at $13,000, this starts to become a very viable or tantalizing potential long opportunity for most investors, either already in the space or wanting to get in the space or diversify. So it's not hard to believe and or potentially forecast that we very well could get closer below that bottom of $15,000, $16,000 to a coin, potentially moving into that $13,000 to a coin territory, right? Now again, even with tiny trades at these levels, right, even if you're trading a 0.01, right, a tiny trade here, right, you have a potential TP, right, in this bottom region of about $150 on a 0.01. A 0.10, you're looking at about $1,500. A standard lot, you're looking at $15,000 on this downside move. So again, you want to do risk management. You either want to take 3 positions that you can risk management each position, or you want to take 1 position with 1 stop loss. You can close out positions as this market starts to move, right? So that's a trade that I've already got in play. This trade is very, very interesting. And again, if you want to be part of the DVD Markets Premium Plus group, where I send out when and how I take this trade with TPs, with stop losses, with entry points, I'm going to be looking out, and just so you are aware, I am going to be looking out at a potential buy opportunity on USD ZAR. Now, I've spoken about this already on Monday, that it would be very interesting. Does USD ZAR come down to this 88.2 and hold out? I am currently looking at a 4-hour time frame. Do we get down to 88.2 on this channel, this retracement? Do we hold out, and then do we break channel as well as get above that crucial 61.8 level resistance, just above our current position, right? And again, that 61.8 means we basically take off the ceiling that would stop USD ZAR from climbing closer into that 20 Rand to the dollar, 21 Rand to the dollar. I've said this can happen and it will happen. And we're now starting to see that become a reality, right? We peaked out at 19 Rand 90 to the dollar not all too long ago in the last week or so. Other than that, just having a look at gold, I am looking for some opportunities in gold. I'm looking at what happened yesterday. Now, for those of you who followed on the trade from Monday, right, we looked at a potential buy breakout. We held that buy breakout. Some people took it in the live trading on Monday afternoon. And I explained that gold could be a trade you want to potentially hold long term, right? So if you are still holding a gold buy, you should be smiling. My gold buy was closed on the pullback that we saw yesterday afternoon. However, we do have a pretty good opportunity this afternoon or this morning. Could develop anytime this morning or this afternoon. Again, if you want to be part of that Premium Plus section where I send through when I'm buying or selling, and again, pretty simple. It's still free for today up until close of business. If you get in tomorrow or thereafter, there will be a small fee, but it will be heavily discounted provided you have a live trading account. You're welcome to inbox us. Telegram link down below if you want to get more info on that. But in essence, I'm looking for potential opportunities here. Whether we will end up going short or whether we will end up going long, that'll be determined once we hit that 8 to 9 o'clock, 8 to 9 a.m. levels, where we start to see where the markets bring in some volumes. Look at US30, right? This is essentially NFP on Friday. NFP Friday essentially brought in a ton of volume. Yeah, we saw some mixed bag data on the dollar reading. I explained this yesterday. But essentially, we got this massive bull move. We pulled back, or we retraced most of Monday. Tuesday was basically a bit of a sideways day, right? And I do believe now we should get some direction today, right? We don't have any big fundamental data points, but nothing else that should be influencing what is going to happen on the dollar. We passed the debt ceiling issue. We passed all other major fundamental data. The only other items we have coming up on the dollar that is going to be impactful is going to be some inflation data coming up only on Monday. And then we've got next week, essentially the Fed that is meeting to discuss interest rates. So between now and then, we're flying in the clear, and it's going to pretty much come down to pure price action. So again, I'm looking for potential breakout situations here. And again, I will be sending that signal down to Premium Plus as and when we do make that breakout. Same exact story looking at US 100. The only difference with US 100, if we have a look at NFP, right, US 100 pretty much didn't make as straightforward of a move, but we're still currently sitting in this little bit of a thinned out market structure, right? Looking at between yesterday, majority of yesterday, pretty much sideways, right? So that means markets are thinned out. We're now waiting for that next directional change or next directional move. Again, I will be monitoring this and I will be popping out when this is ready to potentially trade. Other than that, that's going to be on our radar, right? So looking at potential breakout opportunities for ZAR, potential breakout opportunities, looking at gold. Again, I'm looking at just shorting out and holding short positions on crypto as a whole, just until this SEC saga is dealt with, because again, there's nothing good that is going to come out of these SEC investigations, right? Again, as we saw in the news, if the SEC comes right in terms of freezing, right, Binance's assets worldwide, we're talking about a massive amount of institutional money that gets frozen, right? At the moment, Binance, in terms of one of the most recent data surveys, Binance has got around about $51.7 billion in clean assets, right? They've listed a total of $60.67 billion in general assets, but $51.73 billion in clean assets. So, right, it's a long shot for the SEC, to get courts to freeze their assets. But if they do, you can imagine the amount of panic that would end up happening. Now, this is all going to come in the context of SEC can basically say, we don't want another FTX, right? I don't think anyone worldwide wants the same thing. So maybe they got the power to do that. Maybe they're going to have to jump in and see and clean up. And maybe this is just politics, right? It's coming in to regulate an asset and industry that potentially threatens the norm. Who knows? I'd love to know your thoughts and your feelings on the same topic. Drop a comment down below. I will be replying to all comments. And do remember, part of Premium Plus, I will be sending out those trades and those signals. We will be live this afternoon in Premium Plus. Now, again, a lot of people say, well, what I need to do to get in Premium Plus? It's super simple, guys. Jump into the Telegram group, pinned message on top. Pretty much is how you open up your account. Once your account's open funded, send us a screenshot. We'll add you in today for free. From tomorrow, you will be able to get in, but there is going to be a monthly subscription fee. But it will be worth your while regardless of whether you enter today or tomorrow. Outside of that, I will see you guys. We will be live at 3:15 this afternoon for dollars for lunch. In between that, we're hoping to bank some profits, but we will be live, and let's see if we can smash the New York Stock Exchange open. Outside of that, guys, you know the drill. Much love. Trade safe as always. Until I see you a little bit later. Goodbye.